Welcome to Monday through Sunday. I'm Logan.
I'm Sanam.
And I'm Lane. We're best friends, the founders of Blossom Brands, and the hosts of this podcast.
We can't wait to take you behind the scenes of running a 7-figure agency with our best friends.
We're sharing our mistakes, our lessons learned, and giving you tactical advice to build the career, the business, and the relationships you dream of, and a life you don't need a weekend to escape from.
So let's get balanced and let's get down to business. Welcome to the show. All right. Well, hi, guys. Good morning.
Hello.
Hi. How is everybody doing today?
I'm so excited to have all three of us in the same room.
Speaking for myself, I'm doing wonderful, but I can't say the same for Logan because her coffee's filled after 2 sips.
I am not properly caffeinated, but it's fine.
By the way, I was pretty envious of that sugar cookie pump that you did because it had red and green sprinkles on it this morning.
It is my favorite Starbucks order
is
in
it
the
new?
wintertime. It's seasonal. So they had it last winter, and it's the sugar cookie almond milk latte. But the sugar cookie is delicious, but it has a lot of sugar. So I basically, anytime I get a flavored latte at Starbucks, I sub all of the pumps except for one for sugar-free and then keep one of the original flavor.
Wow, that's genius because you get a little bit of that taste because I do the chai. That's my like wintry flavor.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't really like that much. So I normally just do 1 pump of the chai. But I'm like, if I want it sweeter, then I can add like more of the sugar-free vanilla and not get so much sugar, but still get the chai flavor. So that was brilliant.
Wow.
They should have more sugar-free options.
My sweetness is literally just like a pack of stevia. I feel like I'm really boring, but I'm also still dipping my toes into coffee because we did a Starbucks order this morning. I couldn't get my usual matcha because our matcha is like so sugary and gross. And so I'm still
Starbucks matcha?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's
I've never
pure
had it.
sugar. They're like, yeah, it's sweetened. Like they're not shy in telling you that. And then I like looked up the nutrition facts and it was like 50 grams of sugar. And I was like, okay, well, this is not a fun matcha experience for me because I just like a little bit of sweetness.
To me, the best matcha in Dallas is Siddell's.
Okay, that's good to know.
They have a great matcha.
I can't wait till LA gets a Siddell's.
Oh, they don't have one?
No.
Wow, that surprises me.
Go Dallas. We have something before LA.
I know, literally. And LA this year, because I remember when I was leaving Dallas, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to miss Uchi. I'm going to miss Drake's. I'm going to miss Hudson House. And then all of a sudden, all three popped up in West Hollywood within the past year. And I'm like, wow, literally Dallas and LA, simpot to go.
I'm counting down the days. There's a Hudson House opening in Fort Worth, and I am so freaking
Wait,
excited.
there actually is?
Yeah, it's like the sign is up and everything. Like they look like they're almost done.
Sanam and I were going to try to go to Hudson House last night, and it was an hour wait.
And then we watched Golden Bachelor.
I still haven't watched it. I'm dying to, but I did finish Selling Sunset.
Okay, I want to know who your favorite and least favorite character on Selling Sunset is.
This is hard. I think Emma is my favorite.
Ugh, she's so annoying.
Realistically, because she has bang and bot and I'm really jealous.
Yeah.
And I just think she's fun and happy.
I just think she always talks in that voice that's like so loud.
Yeah.
That's like a TV voice.
Yeah.
And I just like want to hear her be real.
Yeah, she's definitely like the clown a little bit. Like always gonna like do something for attention, but like in a good way, like to distract from whatever drama's going on.
Yeah,
Chrishell and Nicole are my least favorite. Both of them drive me insane.
Chrishell's my favorite.
And Chrishell's her favorite.
Chrishell
and then
used to be my favorite.
Maya was my favorite.
Yeah.
Now Amanda and Emma are probably my favorites.
Oh my God,
even though Amanda
hooking
drives
up
me
with
crazy
Jason.
sometimes, but like overall, I think I like
Amanda
her.
had a hard time this season.
She did.
I feel like it's a hard
still-
season every season.
I feel like I never really paid much attention to her until this season. Like she was never in the middle of drama until this
And maybe
season.
that's why I always liked her. And now I'm like, oh, she's getting some heat.
Yeah.
Oh no, I changed my mind.
Okay.
My other least favorite person that I can't stand is Mary.
Okay, I was gonna say that.
Mary's so annoying.
I used to really dislike her. She's grown on me a little bit.
I agree.
Because I really never thought her and Romaine were gonna last. Now they're thriving.
Okay, but like, are they thriving or
I
is it
don't know.
TV? Like,
I
I'm
don't
so
know.
confused
I don't
about
know.
their
They can't
I
relationship.
can never
television,
read
so.
their relationship ever.
Okay, well, anyways, I feel like we've talked about Selling Sunset for
Yeah.
long enough.
It's a very passionate topic.
I know it's very important, but Sanam is here with us in Dallas this week.
Hello.
We are grateful, thankful, blessed for your presence.
We
I am
really
so
are.
excited to be in this office. I can't believe how much work has gone into it since I've just been chilling in LA for the past 7 months, but it looks amazing. Thank you guys for handling everything.
Oh my gosh, of course. We have a sign on the door. It's so official.
I know, thanks to you.
All I did was email the logo, but I'll take it.
Well, today we are going to be talking about something that I think is really important to the three of us and to everything we do with our company, which is company culture and how to be a good boss. I think when we started this business, we were really sick of a lot of the company cultures that we had all been a part of previously in previous jobs. And when we left, the people that we worked with and the culture that we were creating was so important to us. So when we first kicked things off, it was like, okay, we're working with our best friends. This is great. But from there, it's like we had to build a team. We had to add more people. And we've been very intentional about not only who we add, but how we create relationships with all of those people. I think it's something that's really important to us, and we all work at all the time, and we get better at as we go. So today we're here to talk about how to be a good boss, how to be a good manager to your team, how to lead your team. So, I'm just curious, what do you guys think out of the company culture that we've built? What do you think is like the number one word you'd say to describe it, or what's most important to you about our company culture?
That's a really good question.
I know.
I just want to take a step back and be like, the word company culture makes me cringe.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but it just sounds so stupid. And I think I want the opposite of a company culture. I want just like cool people who I enjoy being around, who are hardworking, who are smart and intelligent and bring something to the table, and we all accomplish a shared objective. So I think for me, I don't want there to be a quote unquote company culture, because that term literally just like gives me PTSD as a former culture chair member. But
let me reposition the question then. How do you want your relationships with your direct reports to feel versus maybe just overall company culture? Because at the end of the day, there is a hierarchy. So there, like, that has to be a little bit different. So as a manager, what is the most important trait that you want to embody, or how do you want your direct reports to describe their relationship with you?
I think for me, I just want to have a real relationship. Like, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm using them for their skills or like pretending to care about them as a person, when really I'm just trying to further my own cause. For me, it's really important that we're all successful. I have no interest in taking credit for someone else's work and claiming it as my own, or getting somebody to do more so that I can do less. Like, I really have an interest in all of us growing and all of us being able to achieve more. And so I think it's really important to have a real relationship with people, and that comes across. Like, if your motives are genuine and your intentions are true, you're not going to come across as like that fake shady boss.
Sanam, how about you?
I would say like the culture that I aim to embody with a direct report is to make them feel comfortable enough to come to me with times of like when they need help and like expressing when they're overworked. I know that's a very specific situation and also can lead to a slippery slope, but like to me, it's so important of like being able to feel comfortable to say, hey, I don't feel good. Like, I'm overworked, I'm stressed, because there's been many situations where like you work with someone and they're just trying to people please you because they think like that's what they need to do in the role. And I'm talking about myself specifically like years ago, where they don't express their needs. And then it just becomes this like resentful relationship where someone's resentful of their job and then projects it onto you. And it just doesn't become a healthy work environment where like people aren't happy with what they're doing. People aren't achieving what they want to achieve. And so I think it's like establishing that like fine line of like getting comfortable enough to be able to voice things. And I feel like so much of that comes from the manager being able to provide that comfort to the direct report versus the direct report establishing it directly. I feel like it needs to be like invited to do that and then be able to like take those steps.
Create like a safe environment.
Correct. I feel like there was a situation where I feel like Logan did a really good job at like connecting with one of our team members on something super vulnerable. And like when I heard that, I feel like it really just changed my perspective of, I was like, wow, that team member felt so comfortable being able to confide in Logan. And like, that is what I think is a sign of like a successful relationship between a manager and a direct report.
Yeah. And to take a step back, obviously to us, just the way that relationships feel and work is really important. But I also want to set the stage that, employee turnover is a huge financial loss on companies. And so I think that this is a really important topic across the board for any type of company, whether it's a huge corporate company or a really small startup. It's something my mom always taught me when she was an entrepreneur, and something when I said I was going to start my own business that she warned me about. She was like, you need to invest in your people, because the easiest way to lose money is by having high employee turnover. So that's something that's been really important to us from the beginning. And just to give you guys some more background on our team. So there's the three of us, and then we're 11 employees overall. And I'd say that we made our first hire was it 3 years ago?
Yes.
It was around 3 years ago. And I'd say most of our employees have been with us for 2 years. So we have done, it's been really important to us. And we are very proud of the fact that we've been pretty successful at keeping people happy. And it's something that we really prioritize.
Our very first employees still with us.
Yeah, that's so cool. And we've had 2 people leave, I think. One because she left to start her own business, which go her. So happy for her.
Honestly.
And the other because she didn't like working remote.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before we start talking about being a manager and how to really excel at being a manager, I want to go back and discuss how each of us were as direct reports in our early careers. This is something we've talked about before. And I just want you guys to elaborate on how your manager would have described you in previous roles as a direct report.
Okay, so I'm solely thinking about like my first manager experience, and I'll happily shout her out, Roxana. I feel like during that period, 90% of the time I was great. I feel like it's because it was a combination of me being a people pleaser and an achiever, which is just like a not great combination in your first job. It is great for like for the manager perspective, but like I would just do anything that I was told and try to be absolutely perfect. But like the 10% of the time that I wasn't great was when I would just hit these points of frustration. And my version of lashing out was just doing the bare minimum. And as soon as that transition happened, Roxana called me out instantly. And then we had what we call our come to Jesus talk, and where she pulled me aside in the conference room when we had an hour-long Zoom. And then I got back to feeling motivated, but I like needed a pep talk. And you guys both know me. Once I get a pep talk on any topic that I'm feeling not confident about, I will then excel. But again, because I was that like achiever people pleaser, I feel like I was a very good direct report, but not in a way that I'm like proud of.
And I believe that I was similar to you, whereas I think my like ultimate purpose when I was a direct report was to have not even just my manager, but like everybody on my team above me to like think I was the best at what I was doing. And I would just like, I would work myself to death because I just wanted everybody's perception of me to be like, oh, she's so good at her job. She does everything perfectly. It wasn't like, oh, so I can get this next role. It wasn't about me. It was never about like looking out for myself. It was like, I just care what other people are thinking of me. And I care that everybody thinks I'm great at my job. So it was like the worst for me mentally because I was so anxious all the time and I was just working myself to death. And
like
so
one small mistake is like the worst feeling in the world.
And I'd say that like I had multiple previous jobs and I was the same. I'd say that anyone that had me as a direct report would be like, oh my gosh, she's the best ever. Like, she's so good. I love having her because I really would just like kill myself for anyone I was working for. So it was probably the most anxious time for me. I am not a good direct report for myself because I don't prioritize myself. So I would say I'm a much better manager in terms of like my own well-being. But Logan, how about you?
Ditto to all of that. I think I lived and breathed for people to say, oh, Logan, she's a rock star. That was definitely my barometer for success. And I would also add that to Sanam's point, I was good and I was also not good. My main thing was I cared a lot. Some would say too much. And I think that is a really good quality and something that could have been nurtured in a direct report. But for me, it was taken a little bit to like, you could always count on me, give me more and more. And there's a book called Essentialism that talks about the point of like not being a crazy overachiever, because the more you overachieve, the more responsibility you're given until eventually you make a mistake and then it blows up and then your reputation is at stake. And so for me, I cared so much and I took work so personally that I had my personal validation in whether or not I was doing good at work. And then if things were doing bad at work, it affected me on like a personal and emotional level. So I wasn't able to separate my worth from how I was doing at work. And it really took a toll on me emotionally. And I would also like lash out, like when things weren't going my way, I would tell people exactly what I thought about it. And I think that
you're a little bit more direct.
Yes.
I think that maybe Sanam or I ever would be as a direct report. And like very honest about
because I thought
how
I could
feel.
be. Because when people tell you to be transparent and be honest about how you're feeling, you think that they like mean that genuinely.
Well, they should.
Right. But not always.
Yeah.
And I think what I learned is you've just got to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you do have to play the game a little bit. And I wasn't very good at playing the game.
You have to, but I'd say that you should try to strive to have a relationship with whoever manages you. If you have like a good manager, that it is a safe space and they're rooting for you as much as you're rooting for yourself in positive ways.
Right.
But if you don't have that, then yes.
You do need to. Then you have to learn how to protect yourself and play the game. Yes. And I wasn't very good at playing the game. So that's my recap.
So how do you think that has in turn made you as a manager?
So the opposite. I think that I'm very direct and very to the point. And like if a client's being annoying, I'm not going to like ask my direct report, hey, like do this report right now because they need it. I'm going to be like, look, I know this client is being a pain in the ass. I'm so sorry. It's pain, but like we've just got to knock it out. Or if something goes wrong, I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. I'm going to be like, look, we screwed up. And it's fine. But because we screwed up, now we have to do X, Y, Z. When bad things happen, I address it and move on. And then when good things happen, we celebrate it and move on.
Totally.
Like I don't belabor things and hold grudges. Like it's just like, how do we get from one day to the next? And recognizing that this is all just a job for everyone. And I think that's important to keep in mind because at the time when I was in that situation, it was so much more than a job to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to have that perspective.
Yeah. For me, I think from my previous experience, now in terms of my relationships with anyone I'm managing, I think I want to make sure I eliminate fear from our relationship on any side of it. I was thinking about kind of how I go about starting with managing someone new and moving forward. And I feel like I kind of have first like a test period. Like, okay, let's work together. Let's see if I really trust you, if I believe in you, and let's, see how we work together. And once I get to the point where I'm like, they've proven themselves, I think that this is a good work relationship, then it's like, I want to go all in. I want them to know like, I believe in you. I'm going to support you in every way. I'm going to stick up for you and I'm going to like be on your side. If a client is being rude, like if a client calls something out, even if you mess up, I'm still going to have your back because I think that that's important for anyone to feel like their manager is going to stick up for them, So I think that that's a little bit opposite than a lot of people are. People kind of like, oh, they use fear as a way of getting what they want out of their team members. And I really think it should be the opposite. I think that you'll get more out of anyone that is working under you if you make them feel really secure and if they have a lot of satisfaction in their job and they believe that you'll stick up for them.
I love that. That's such a good point.
I agree. And I will say from a management perspective, I'm not just blowing smoke. I've always looked to you two to see how you guys manage because I feel like you two are really good with managing relationships. And I feel like I always try and like read the Slacks as to like how you guys are communicating and like seeing how you guys are sticking up for your team. Because I feel like that's where I feel like I want to continue investing in to learn how to do it. Because I feel like where my success lies in terms of like our business dynamic is like, I love building relationships with sales contacts, networking, going to in-person events and all of those types of relationships.
You like external relationships.
I do love external relations, whether it's like via content online or in person. And so that's where I feel like I really look to you two for like that guidance because I feel like you two have done a really good job at it.
Thank you. What are some things that you guys implemented in your relationships or how you work with your team members or people that you manage that have created the type of relationships that we're talking about?
For me personally, my biggest thing is having trust with like my direct reports.
How do you build trust with your direct reports? What do you
do?
So
everything changed for me really when I listened to this one podcast that Brene Brown had posted. It was her podcast, but she talked about how trust is built by small acts. It's not like one big act or like confiding in someone, making you feel safe. Like that is a different dynamic of trust. Trust, think of it like a jar of marbles where every time someone like does something that makes you feel comfortable, you're adding a marble in the jar and ultimately like you build trust with that person. And the way she defined trust was like people that remember your mom's name, people that ask about how your sick grandma is doing. I think when it comes to like showing that you care, kind of like how you're saying, like, I want to invest in you, I want to understand, I want to stick up for you. I feel like another layer to that is also, I care about you and I want you to know that like when you come and like there's something happening in your personal life, you can take care of it. Like we can talk about it. So if someone says, oh, like I have to sign off because I'm dealing with my health today, like following up with them and checking how they're doing. Like if they're signing off for and they're like prepping for a wedding, hey, do you need a little bit of extra time to prep for your wedding? Those types of conversations where you're building trust on a personal level that then translate into the work side. I feel like that's something that's been a big goal of mine and something that I'm trying to do with our team is constantly like check in and ask about their personal lives and not just leave it to, hey, did you get this done? Because then I feel like it just creates this wall where it's just work focused. And yes, we are in work, and I don't think that you should go entirely personal. But I also
going out of your way to treat them like a real person.
Yeah, exactly. Like acknowledging that like they have a real life outside of this, and like making sure like that's recognized too.
One thing that I have started trying to do with people that I work with is really identify what motivates them and help support that. So I'd say that some people are motivated by money. Other people are motivated by travel or just security, opportunity, success. And when you kind of understand that about someone, if someone just wants security, you know, how can you tailor what you're working towards or what you're motivating them with and how you're supporting them based off of that? Or if someone wants travel, like how can we make their flexibility and their PTO really support that goal for themselves. So I think understanding what motivates someone, and that's not, you can't just ask someone like, oh, what are you motivated by? But that again is like what you said, investing in that personal relationship and understanding like the nuances of who they are and how they live their life.
Totally.
I'm really glad you said that because I think I very much realized in thinking about this topic that what I value most in the way that we structure our business, how we live our lives, is the freedom and the friendship that we have established. And so clearly those are my values. And I think those are the values that I also hope to extend to anybody that works with us. So for me, if I'm your manager and you ask me to go to a doctor's appointment at 2:00 on a Friday afternoon, I'm going to be like, yes, absolutely. Like no questions asked.
Yeah. Or 11 a.m. on a Monday.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And I think that's what's so important is I never want us to have privileges that our employees don't feel empowered and have the same. And so I really feel that's important in how we structure our company and how we truly like live out those values. And I think that it's really easy to say that that's a value, but then when there's a client deadline that conflicts with someone's doctor's appointment, it's really easy to like toe that line. But I think it's like walking the walk is so important when it comes to that. And I also think the friendship is something really special that we have. Again, I told you I don't like the word company culture, but we have a like badass culture in that not only are we best friends, but through our employees and who we've hired in their networks, like we've hired their best friends. And so we've been able to extend that same like happiness and warm, fuzzy feelings to everybody that works with us. And now I feel like we're like all best friends. Like we chat about Taylor Swift for like 10 minutes before every team meeting. And it's just like really cool. And I think really, really special.
Yeah. Anytime we like have a new role before we even post it anywhere or put it on Indeed or LinkedIn, we always ask our employees, we're like, hey, we're going to hire, you know, we're going to add another team member. If anybody wants to submit referrals, we'll of course take these referrals into consideration before anyone else. And it's really worked out for us, not only for us getting good candidates and really like great employees, but it is bringing people's friends into our team and giving them the opportunity to work with people that are, you know, that they trust or that they like have really strong relationships with. We have two team members that are literally best friends. They were just in each other's wedding last weekend. So we love that. And we love that like we created that for ourselves and we're creating that for other people too. One thing that I like strategically will always do though, when we're hiring friends is never have a manager direct report relationship between friends. So we have structured it where anybody on our team that, you know, has a personal relationship with someone, they are not responsible for managing them or vice versa.
And they typically don't even work across the same client. Yeah. So we kind of have like different client teams and we strategically, and it also helps because then you get to build new relationships versus like just working with relationships that you have. But I also think when it comes from someone, a referral, you can really trust and vouch for their skills. Like I think our highest like skilled hires that we've had have been like referral based.
Yeah, completely. And something else you touched on earlier that I just want to reemphasize is I think that talking about all of this, a lot of people would say, oh yeah, our company does this, but it's really put to the test when it comes to, okay, what is the priority when a client deadline comes up and a personal doctor appointment comes up. And I think for us, or, when you need to work with someone that's on the same team because of the way that the like client is structured, for us, we're always going to really try to prioritize like what we say is most important, which like is our people, is our team over our client or over, a deadline, which is a lot easier said than done. But I think that's when you're really put to the test if that's like your priority.
Yeah. I was literally talking to somebody about this the other day. Like if you have to no-show a client call, like I trust you that if you have to no-show, you have to no-show. And I think having, like Sanam was talking about, that layer of trust, that obviously if somebody's doing that every other week, that's a completely different story. But when you've built up that trust with somebody, you can literally tell them, I would rather you no-show a call than miss something that's important for your health.
And no show and like tell me after why you did it. Like you don't even need to tell me. I would trust that like you're doing what you need to do for yourself.
Kind of that's what I was saying, that test period, that, making sure that like, okay, like these people are going to put their best foot forward. They're going to, care about our company the same way that we care about them.
Yeah.
I'd say if anything, we have to encourage people to go take their doctor's appointment and go take the time off that they need, but they care so much that they don't, we have to be like, go prioritize yourself and remind them. And I think we're all those types of people. Like we want to put as much as we can into what we're doing and the success of our jobs and the success of our business. And so it's more so we're reminding people to have to do that,
right?
Because they care so much about what they're doing too.
One thing Sanam started saying that I've really picked up on is everything is figure outable. And it's like my favorite thing to say. And it's really true. I think when you're a manager who really cares truly about the person working under you, everything is figure outable. You can move a client deadline. You can reschedule a call. Like it's not that big of a deal. So I think when you're really valuing the person as an individual over the value that they're providing to your business, that's when that genuine care is going to come across. And that's when people are going to feel comfortable prioritizing their personal needs when they need to, or telling you when a deadline needs to be rearranged. And I think that communication is so key, because as an employee, I used to be so scared to admit that I couldn't follow through on a commitment. Like to me, that felt like failure. At the end of the day, me not admitting it and it still being true caused more problems than if I had just been upfront. And so I think building that trust where someone can be upfront, I need to move this deadline, I'm not going to be ready for this call, or I need help. Asking for help is so huge. And I think that's a big part of being a good boss, is making people feel comfortable asking for help and knowing that they're going to be met with compassion and care and solutions and actual help. I think that's really important to me, that anybody I work with knows that I'm going to actually not only be like, okay, let's delegate this to so-and-so and let's change this deadline, but I'm also actually willing to roll up my sleeves and do the work and help. And I think that's so rare. I used to beg for help in past jobs, and you would get every solution except for somebody just putting their hands on the keyboard and work. And sometimes that's just what you need, is extra hands. And I am always going to be willing to do that.
Something that in our full team meetings that we'll do is, I think we've talked about this, personal and professional bests, and calling out wins from the previous week. Like sometimes we really make a priority to be like, the win last week was that Laura, someone on our team, asked for help and they said, we can't reach that goal. And we call that out as a success, because people are scared to do that. But I think recognizing people for having being brave enough to raise their hand and be like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to successfully be able to finish this in time. That takes a backbone. And so we really try to like cheer people on to do that, because or else people won't do it.
One thing that I also want to call out in our field specifically, obviously we work in a marketing agency, there's so much strategy and decision that's involved, and us having managers dedicated working on our accounts and then having coordinators under them, there's a lot of opinions involved. And I think in past jobs, we've all seen where it's like you have an opinion, but then the person above you is like, no, this is right. So this is what we're going to do. And I feel like on our team, in my opinion, at least, we do a good job of like saying, okay, you're going to call the shots. If this is what you feel like is the right approach, even if we disagree, it's worth testing to be able, and not to say, oh, I'm right or you were wrong. It's more so, okay, this is the learning that we can implement to the account or apply to different channels, other brands, whatever that we do.
It's making it an even playing field across people that do not have even titles.
Because then it's empowering them to be able to have the confidence to make the decisions on the account that will then translate into confidence into other parts of the business or the job. And like having confidence in your role is so important. I feel like all the things that we just talked about in our past roles as direct reports is that we didn't have the confidence to make those calls ourselves because we were focused on getting the accolades.
Yeah. Another topic that I wanted to discuss and get your POV on is reviews or one-on-ones. I think that in any managerial relationship, there are what a company calls a quarterly review, an annual review, a weekly touch base, whatever it is. I'm curious where you found success or maybe haven't been successful in managing those types of meetings with your direct reports.
So for me, I like to come into those meetings definitely prepared, but the first thing I do isn't talk. The first thing I do is listen. And the first thing I do is ask, how do you feel like this past month has gone? What were your big wins? What were things you struggled with? And just after that, close your mouth and listen. That's when you can get a lot of perspective, because at the end of the day, when you're two people in a relationship, you're going through the same situation, but you may not be perceiving things the exact same way. So what I may be observing is like missed deadlines is in reality someone being really overwhelmed that would never miss a deadline if they had the opportunity to perform at their highest potential. So I think it's really important to listen and like truly absorb what the person has to say.
Totally. I think that's a really good point.
I agree. I feel like in the last time I had a manager, we didn't have one-on-ones. They just kept getting glazed over and skipped. And so like the biggest thing for me is just consistently making sure that they are on the calendar.
Making time for it.
And then acting on that and sending recaps every time. And then when you have those recaps, you have points to reference for the next meeting. Because I feel like the whole purpose of these one-on-ones is to actually track growth and be able to get the person where they want to be in their career, whether it's a specific title, security, money, like you said. And so I think for me personally, what's been helpful is just being able to track all the progress that's happening over time, because then it kind of puts it into perspective, especially for you guys, for the people that I'm managing that you may not have direct contact with. Okay, from like last meeting to this meeting, we've made major strides. So I feel like XYZ person is actually on their way to either a promotion or a raise. And it just kind of helps keep progress for that versus make it like a very blurry situation of like, okay, so what do you want to talk about this week? And kind of like putting it on them, because I don't feel like the responsibility is on them.
Yeah. For me, I think something that is really important in any type of meeting that I have that is about like growth or just performance for anybody that I manage is to make it a comfortable, like low stress environment. I think in the past with having one-on-ones or reviews, it was like there was so much pressure on the table and you go into it kind of feeling on edge and, you know, wanting it to go a certain way. And like for me, that was like a really anxious position to be in. So anytime I'm creating that relationship or that environment for someone that I'm managing, I want it to be extremely comfortable and make it like a really safe space. And that I think can be created by what you guys just said, you know, asking questions and really listening, but not like coming into it with like an expectation that they're going to have all of these things to, you know, present in a certain way and, or to have any like specific expectations and like seeing what's needed out of those. And I agree with you, Sanam. I think consistency, we do one-on-ones on a monthly basis. We do weekly check-ins with people that we're managing. We're talking with them all the time, but we take at least once a month to be like, all right, let's take a step back and just look at how this past month went and how we're feeling we're performing, how we're feeling we're growing over time, where we have room for improvement. So how I structure one-on-ones with people I'm managing is to have first, like we discuss areas of strength, another is areas of growth, and then priorities and goals for this next amount of time. So having a loose structure, but fitting it in however it really needs to based off of like that current situation.
And I think one thing I want to touch on that, you mentioned areas of growth, and that's obviously like areas for improvement. That's a positive way of putting that. And I do think that that is always the part that's a little bit tougher for me personally to deliver, because I always want to make sure it still comes across positive, like you said. And so one thing that I found is just like a little tip in trying to communicate that is I always like to relate things to like my personal experiences in the past. Like, oh, I remember when I was learning this, it was such a challenge, or I remember this situation that I went through, and just show that I can relate. So even though you're calling out room for improvement, be like, look, I've also been in that exact same spot, and that doesn't make me better than you that I'm calling out this way for you to improve. It's just me being a mirror to reflect back to you. And just, again, keeping it real and like remembering that you are a real person, they're a real person, and we're all just trying to like grow and improve and be the best we can.
I think that's a really good point. Like being vulnerable with people that you're working with, I think can really help strengthen the relationships, and using your one-on-one meetings, using your reviews to create that vulnerable space and like really give examples of either how you or someone you know has been in that same situation, and giving examples of like how they've grown or how they've improved from that specific situation, I think can be really helpful.
Oh, I love to talk about my worst failures with ads. Lane, do you remember that one time, the DKY men's campaign, that we accidentally spent like $60,000 overnight on YouTube with no targeting?
Yes.
Honestly, ad F-up stories are my absolute favorite. Like, they're just so entertaining. My F-up happened at Blossom. It was the time that I was setting up conversion tracking for a client.
Oh, yeah.
And I set up a custom code that ended up applying to all orders, and $3,000 worth of free orders went through.
You accidentally set up a 100% discount code.
100% discount that applied to everything. You didn't have to input the code. It applied to everything. Oh my God. $3,000 worth of orders. I'm surprised there wasn't more. Like, if you're realizing this is going through.
Oh, you're telling the world.
My favorite story of all time is our dear friend. I'm not going to say his name, but when he was doing Vineyard Vines.
I think I know where you're going.
This is one of the days of like Power Editor, where you would like input all the ad copy in an Excel spreadsheet and then upload it to Meta Ads. And he dragged the copy down. So it was like Vineyard 1, Vineyard 2, Vineyard 3. So 60 different codes went out on these Facebook ads instead of just like that, use the code Vineyard 10.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking of. You want to know what I was thinking of?
What?
I don't remember who it was either. It was around that same time frame, but somebody was running countdown ads. Like, it was a sale that was, 7-day countdown, 6-day countdown, but they forgot to put the O in countdown.
No. Wait, after you need to tell me who did this. Wait, what brand was it? Do you know?
I don't know or remember, but
this is just the most entertaining topic. The last one I want to mention was someone.
See how relatable it is. This would be so great to performance review.
Agency, I remember it was for Tory Sport, ran a Cyber Monday ad in February and March, not knowing it was live the entire time on display.
Oh my God.
And it's just like, when you hear these stories, you can't help but giggle. Okay, one thing that I also wanted to mention in this direct report conversation is establishing an environment where the direct reports feel comfortable to suggest their own ideas that are unrelated to the client, but that have to do with either the efficiency that they have in their role or things that they want to do for themselves. And I'm talking about different platforms that we paid for the team to be able to either be more efficient in their workload or manage the team workload, or conferences that people want to attend. I think when people ask, it is a very vulnerable thing to ask. Like, no matter what you're asking for, when you're asking something that someone else has the control over, it takes guts to ask. And whether you can or cannot like provide that service or experience for someone, how you respond in those situations is so crucial to be able to make someone feel comfortable to A, ask again, or B, accept whatever answer that you're giving them, whether it's a partial, fully not meeting them. And so I think that's something to be cognizant of, especially probably in one-on-ones when these conversations come up. It's like, like you said, how to create an environment, how to listen, where someone can feel comfortable asking for something that you may not be aware that they need or want to do that they feel like would better their career or the efficiency in the position.
Yeah. Something I would say to everyone that is, on the direct report side of the relationship and they're listening to this being like, how can I create this relationship with my manager? How can I improve?
You can send your manager this podcast.
You can first send them this episode, but two, I would just encourage you that and let you know that you actually have a lot more control than you think. And if you ask for something, it kind of makes your manager like, squirm a little like, oh shoot, how do I keep them happy? How do I do that? So I would say that like, if you can get the confidence to speak up and kind of just like address either what you want or just like how you want your relationship to shift, or you'd prefer to have these types of meetings versus these types of meetings, you have more control and you have a larger hand in getting what you might want if you kind of have the confidence to speak up.
Gosh, I remember when I was going into the office at our old job asking for a raise, I had an ulcer going into the office that morning. I think I went to the bathroom like 10 times. I was so nervous and so stressed. But like looking back, I didn't need to be that stressed.
Right.
And I think also what was hard in that situation was that for months, it was never brought up until I got the promotion. And so that's why I kind of felt like my manager forgot that that was a topic of conversation. Whereas like in my one-on-ones, if the person is asking for a raise or a promotion, I reference where we're at in terms of the progress. So they know it's still on my radar.
Right.
Versus like thinking that I forgot it, because I always thought it was overlooked. And then when I got it, I wasn't satisfied with the number and I feel like I couldn't argue with it.
Right.
And then the one other piece of advice that I have for anybody that is on the manager side of things, and this isn't necessarily with your direct report, but with like your full team, is doing team building exercises. So that's something that we kind of do across the board. Things like our Good Life episode, doing that with multiple team members, or Enneagram. We did that across our full team and just had a discussion about it. We all got to know each other. Yeah, you kind of learn like what does motivate people, what are people working towards,
and
what's
everyone
important
was
to
so
them.
honest in that one. Like we learned that like one of our team members was like, no, I don't want help in the beginning when I'm trying to figure something out. And I was like, this is so eye-opening for me because I never would have thought that of you. And now it helps me figure out how to work with you.
Yeah. So any type of like skill assessment, so you can understand like where people strive versus where they, lack a little bit, and tailor their work or how they work with other people accordingly. I think that can really help like improve your team efficiency and just how you work with like managers or direct reports or really anybody.
I feel like this was a really good conversation. Thanks for leading, Lane.
You're welcome. So before we go ahead and wrap things up, does anybody have an action item of the week? I think you kind of plugged one already that goes in line with this episode.
Oh, yeah. So I think a great book to read on this topic is the book Essentialism. I think particularly if you are a direct report or if you're a manager who takes your job way too damn seriously, would also be worth the read. But Essentialism is a great book. Our former coworker Tiffany recommended it to me. I'm not sure if I've talked about it on the podcast before, but definitely worth a read. I can't stress enough how important it is to care about your job, but also care about yourself. And this book reminded me to care about myself more than my job, and was a lifeline in a situation where I was a little bit overworked. And I'm sure a lot of people listening could maybe benefit from that.
Logan, would you say it's a 5-star on Goodreads for you?
Oh, good question.
It was for me.
I think it was, because I still think about it all the time.
I love 5 stars. Well, Lane, thanks again. I feel like that was a really good conversation and kind of therapeutic. But I got to head to the airport. So thank you again.
Wait, I forgot you were leaving today.
I know. I'm going to the airport, but I'll be back in like literally 2 weeks, and I'm back 2 weeks after that. So
okay. We will survive.
Many more in-person episodes to come. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode of Monday through Sunday. We loved having you and hope you got some valid takeaways from this episode. And feel free to send it to any former managers of yours. We support this. We're in favor. But we will talk to you on next week's episode. And if you have a moment, we'd be so grateful if you could rate and review this podcast, because we are so close to 100 ratings on Apple Podcasts. And it would just be so exciting to get to 100 reviews before the end of the year. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Monday through Sunday. If you're building a career, a business, or any relationships, we know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us.
With that in mind, we would be so grateful if you can spare 2 minutes to rate and review this podcast. Your reviews help spread the message to more people that work doesn't have to suck.
By the way, if you're looking for your community, join us on Instagram and TikTok at Monday through Sunday Pod. We're all about connecting our like-minded listeners together. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about by sending us a DM. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you again, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.